Nick, we're expecting a meeting shortly between Narendra Modi and the German Chancellor against the backdrop of these tensions over New Delhi's failure, I suppose, to criticise Russia as strongly as Europeans would like.
It's really interesting to compare the quotes and the communiques that the two leaders have put out. Olaf Scholz saying that Russia's brutal assault on Ukraine has met with condemnation worldwide, and that the responsible people must be held accountable. And he was looking forward to finding agreement with Narendra Modi. Contrast that with what the Indian leader says there are challenges and choices that the region must face. Now, those are worlds apart, really. And if you actually look at the details, the choices that Europe has been making these past 2 months are all in favor of supporting Ukraine, whether it comes to, just as Doug Herbert was saying, increasing economic sanctions, turning off perhaps imports of gas, getting rid of that Nord Stream 2, Germany, 180-degree foreign policy turn, shipping heavy weapons into Ukraine, a massive diplomatic effort from all of the European countries. Observers, politicians saying the EU and NATO have never been as united as they are now, or at least in decades. So not really choices. Every choice every day seems to be more and more in favor of Ukraine. So what will really be interesting to see is in an hour and a half, when these two leaders face the press, what kind of diplomatic dance, what kind of word ballet Modi is going to have to engage in to suggest that there is some kind of consensus which both sides diplomats are saying will be achieved.
OK, so I guess Russia very much front and centre of this trip in the aftermath of Ursula von der Leyen, the Commission President's trip in the other direction last week. Can you give us a sense of what else might be on the agenda? This is a trip to Germany, then followed by Denmark, followed by France. It's not just the Russian war, right? Or the war in Ukraine.
Absolutely not. It's a regularly planned trip that has been completely overtaken and overshadowed, probably embarrassingly so, for the Indian leader by the war in Ukraine. This is Narendra Modi's 5th trip to Germany. It's a regular bilateral meeting where they talk about trade, where they talk about how to have a green economy, all kinds of exchanges. Germany is India's 6th biggest trading partner. They want to work on that. So there will be discussions and they will be talking about other things. But of course, it's going to be difficult to avoid the Ukrainian elephant in the room. I think, though, that there's one olive branch. We know Olaf Scholz is already going to be extending to India, which is, since Germany is hosting running the G7 now, the president of the G7, they'll be hosting a G7 meeting in Bavaria in June. They will invite India, as is their prerogative, as a guest to come along and perhaps bring them along. And the G7, of course, is completely united against Russia on the invasion of Ukraine. Invite them along and perhaps have them along to show some kind of support. It needs to really be said, though, that India's condemnation of the invasion of Ukraine would be nice, but it's not really necessary, I think, economically or diplomatically.
OK, Nick Spicer, we'll be checking in with you a little bit later this afternoon in the aftermath of announcements or declarations from both leaders. Thank you for that.